Look around you right now. Someone in your life is playing a game where the rules were rigged before you even sat down at the table. They smile, they carry an unshakable confidence, they walk into a room, pull all the air out of it, and leave you questioning your memory, your judgment, and your worth. You have watched them break rules without paying for it. You have watched them step over people, lie with cold precision, and walk away clean while everyone else is left picking up the wreckage. And in the quiet hours of the night, you ask the question that nearly everyone in your position eventually asks. When do they pay? When does the scale finally balance out? When does karma actually arrive? I am going to reveal something to you right now that changes everything. You are looking for the wrong sign. You are waiting for a grand public exposure, a dramatic trial, a cinematic collapse. You are waiting for them to cry, to apologize, or to suffer in a way that gives you closure. But while you wait for that visible explosion, you are missing the darker, more brutal truth that is already happening behind their eyes. Their karma has not been delayed. It is not waiting for some distant future. Their karma is already here. Their downfall is already locked in. Stay with me, because this next part matters. In this breakdown, we are not talking about mystical energy or poetic justice. We are talking about human behavior, the cold, hard mechanics of dark psychology and mental decay. Over the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through the invisible traps that every narcissist builds for themselves and show you the exact small signs that prove their internal collapse has already begun. These signs are hiding in plain sight. The jokes that are not really jokes, the sudden mood shifts when they are not the center of attention, the memory that conveniently rewrites itself. Learn to read them, and you will never be fooled again. You will learn why their desperate need to control you is really a panic response to losing control of themselves. You will see how their refusal to feel shame guarantees their own emotional, social, and professional bankruptcy. And most importantly, by the end of this discussion, you will understand the single tactical error narcissists make every single time, the one error that seals their fate, and how you can spot it in real time so you can protect yourself for good. This matters more than you realize. If you leave right now, you will keep waiting for a justice that looks like a Hollywood ending, and you will miss the silent, inescapable prison they are already living in this very second. Watch this to the end, because once you see the machinery of their self-destruction, you will never look at them or fear them the same way again. When people talk about karma, they usually picture an outside force, an invisible referee that steps in at the last minute to penalize the dirty player. When you deal with a narcissist, that way of thinking is dangerous. It keeps you glued to them. It keeps you checking their social media, watching their relationships, and waiting for the moment they finally fail. You become chained to their timeline. Let me adjust your lens. In behavioral psychology, every choice carries a cost, both chemical and behavioral. What we call karma is simply the total bill of a life built on self-deception. The narcissist is not going to suffer someday. They are suffering right now. The mask is not their power. It is their sentence. To understand why their ruin is certain, you first have to understand the architecture inside a narcissist. At their core sits a deep, unhealed wound, a crushing sense of inadequacy and shame. Because they lack the inner equipment to face that reality, they build an engineered persona, the false self. That false self is magnificent, invincible, superior, always right. But here is the catch. A construct takes energy to maintain. Every second a narcissist exists in the world, they are running a high-stakes manual balancing act. They must constantly filter reality, manage what others see, and hide the tiny flickers of fear and anger behind the mask to protect the illusion. Now think about the sheer mental weight of performing that act 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Constant low-level paranoia. Every person in their orbit is not a human being to them, but a possible threat or a source of approval. Constant managing of reality. They must replay every conversation, twist every narrative, and remember every lie they have told just to stay consistent. Constant alertness. They are permanently stuck in fight-or-flight mode, their body firing nonstop, scanning every room for disrespect, rejection, or exposure. That is not victory. That is a living hell dressed up as dominance. Narcissists are masters of the first impression. They use charm, intense eye contact, mirroring, and high-status posturing to win people over fast. But influence built on lies comes with a sharp expiration date. Because they see every interaction as a contest where someone has to lose, I win, you lose, they are unable to build real emotional trust. Every bridge they cross is eventually burned for a moment of validation. Watch the cycle closely. In the beginning, they love bomb you, mirror you, and put you on a pedestal. You let your guard down and hand them your trust. In the middle, they start small devaluations, tiny digs, constant boundary testing. You grow confused, anxious, always on edge. In the late stage, they move into open exploitation, gaslighting, outright hostility. Trust collapses as you detach or run. And in the endgame, they burn every bridge and launch smear campaigns, losing valuable allies for good. Notice the pattern. Over time, the quality of the people around them slowly drops. High-value, emotionally healthy people spot the red flags early and quietly walk out. So who is left? Only people who can be manipulated, people who want something from them, or other toxic players. The narcissist world shrinks until they are surrounded entirely by mirrors and opportunists who are just waiting for them to show weakness. The false self also leans heavily on things that naturally fade with time. Charm, looks, energy, sharpness, status. When a narcissist is young or sitting in a position of power, their manipulation works because they have the stamina to keep it running. But as the years stack up, two things happen. First, mental fatigue sets in. The inner machinery breaks down. The lies turn sloppy. The gaslighting becomes obvious instead of subtle. The flashes of rage and contempt slip through the mask more and more often. Second, their leverage evaporates. As the people around them grow up, those people build stronger boundaries and sharper emotional intelligence. The tricks that worked at 25 fall flat at 45 and beyond. So when the leverage is gone, what is left? An aging person with no real relationships, no honest inner life, and a pile of unaddressed shame that is finally catching up to them. That is not an escape, that is a slow sentence playing itself out. The single most powerful weapon against a narcissist is not revenge, not exposure, and not conflict. Conflict feeds them. It tells them they matter enough to fight over. Their true defeat is indifference. When you strip away your emotional reaction, when you look at them without rage, with the calm curiosity of someone watching a predictable machine run its script, their whole power structure dissolves. Without an audience to feed the false self, the illusion caves in. The shame they spent a lifetime running from rushes and all at once. They are left alone in a quiet room with the one person they spent their entire life trying to escape themselves. Their downfall is not something you have to arrange. It was built into their behavior the moment they chose protection over truth, control over connection, and vanity over character. Your part in this equation is simple. Stop waiting for a spectacle. The real punishment is happening inside their head every single day. Reclaim your attention. Every second you spend monitoring their life is energy stolen from your own. Observe, do not absorb. Recognize their behavior for what it is, a desperate, automatic survival strategy from a broken system. Then walk away and let the laws of human behavior finish their work. The trap was already set, and they locked themselves inside it a long time ago. When you look at a covert or high-functioning narcissist, your eyes deceive you. You see someone who moves through the world with unshakable confidence, who dodges accountability without effort, and who seems to live by a completely different set of rules than everyone else. They take credit for work they never did, destroy reputations without a second thought, and walk away from emotional wreckage completely untouched, often rewarded with promotions, status, or fresh admiration. It is easy to look at that pattern and conclude that they have some kind of social immunity, that they have somehow skipped the basic mechanics of cause and effect that bind the rest of us. This illusion of immunity is their greatest strategic asset, but it is also their most deceptive trap. What looks like an impenetrable shield of arrogance is actually a fragile, hand-built psychological prison. Their apparent success, their status, their dominant posture, none of it is strength. It is an escalating loan taken out against reality itself. Every time they lie, gaslight, or dump their insecurity onto someone else, They are borrowing peace from their own future. And like any predatory loan, that debt accrues compounding interest. A healthy person builds self-esteem from the inside out, through self-awareness, honest emotional processing, and real connection. A narcissist cannot do that, because their core is fractured, buried under years of suppressed shame and unaddressed inadequacy. So to survive, they have to find their worth outside themselves. They build that flawless false self, then force the world to confirm it again and again. Because the false self is a made-up construct, it cannot hold itself up on its own. It needs constant outside feeding, constant approval, constant attention. The moment that supply dries up, or the moment reality threatens to reveal what is underneath, the narcissist feels an unbearable spike of anxiety. So their entire life becomes one long military defense operation. They are trapped in permanent alert mode, replaying every conversation, reading every face for signs of disrespect, and arranging their environment so that they always stay in control. That alertness is an exhausting mental load. While you see someone calmly posing in a boardroom or coldly dismissing a partner's feelings, their nervous system is stuck in a permanent state of emergency. They cannot rest. Because resting means dropping the defense, and dropping the defense means letting the buried shame rise to the surface. The armor does not protect them from the world. It locks them inside a war room of their own making, where every single human interaction is a threat to be neutralized instead of a connection to be experienced. They are effectively serving a life sentence of hard labor, rebuilding their fragile identity from scratch every single morning. They can never drop their guard. They can never trust another person. And they can never know true closeness or real peace. The immunity you think they have is nothing more than a temporary delay in the settling of their account, paid for with the permanent loss of their own inner freedom. People often mistake karma for a mystical energy or some cosmic balance sheet, and they expect an invisible hand to step in and arrange a dramatic twist of fate. When you deal with a narcissist, waiting for that kind of Hollywood justice is a trap. Human behavior does not run on magic, it runs on mechanics. What we call karma is simply the inescapable law of cause and effect, driven by thousands of small daily choices, constant inner conflict, and a nervous system that never stops firing. Their downfall is not an outside event that happens to them. It is a certainty programmed directly into their psychology. Every decision a person makes reshapes their brain, strengthens certain pathways, and locks in a pattern of behavior. When a normal person makes a mistake or hurts someone, they feel guilt or shame. They process it, they make amends, and they adjust so they do not feel that inner pain again. A narcissist's inner wiring lacks that correction loop. The moment shame appears, their defense system kicks in and rejects it. They blame someone else, they change the facts, they rewrite their own memory of the event to protect the grand image. This constant twisting of reality creates a massive internal conflict that never settles. And to keep their fake reality from falling apart, they have to keep deploying the same moves, lying, gaslighting, shifting blame, pulling away emotionally. Those moves buy them short-term relief, but they create long-term chaos. You cannot lie to others for years without damaging your own ability to see reality clearly. Over time, they become a prisoner of their own distortions, unable to read people anymore, mistaking kindness for weakness and treating normal boundaries as personal attacks. Because their threat radar is always turned up. Their body stays flooded with stress chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline. The brain cannot tell the difference between a real danger and a blow to the ego. So the narcissist lives in a constant chemical bath of stress. That biological toll wears down their emotional control, narrows their focus, and drains the fuel they need just to stay composed. They are constantly fighting ghosts, battling enemies nobody else can even see, and burning enormous amounts of energy just to keep the mask steady. This is cause and effect in action. The daily choices to betray trust, dodge responsibility, and use people make peace, safety, and genuine connection impossible. They cannot build trust because they do not operate on trust. They cannot receive love because they treat every relationship as a transaction. And they cannot rest because their own mind is a war zone. Time does not pause for anyone, and no amount of ego can stop the clock. In the early years, the false self runs on surface assets: physical attraction, charisma, energy, quick thinking, position. While those assets are at their peak, their manipulation runs with frightening ease. They sweep people off their feet, outmaneuver rivals, and charm their way out of any corner. But as time passes, a quiet, unstoppable breakdown begins. The false self is not a living identity. It is an elaborate, energy-hungry illusion. Energy drops, looks change. The quick thinking needed to juggle dozens of overlapping lies slows down. The tricks that once worked start turning clumsy. The hidden rage, envy, and contempt start leaking through the mask more and more often. People stop seeing a captivating leader. They simply see an irritable, unstable, difficult person. At the same time, the world around them keeps evolving while they stay frozen in emotional time. The people in their circles grow up. They develop sharper emotional intelligence, firmer boundaries, and a better eye for toxic patterns. The guilt trips, the dramatic games, the manipulation that used to work so well suddenly fall flat against emotionally mature adults. The narcissist loses their grip. Fresh sources of admiration dry up. The people they used to control quietly pull away or cut ties altogether. As their outer assets fade and their energy drains, the cost of keeping the grand persona alive becomes unbearable. So they fall into a desperate downward spiral. They double down on aggression, outrageous claims, or heavy plays for pity. But those over-the-top attempts only speed up their exposure. The mask does not shatter in one glorious moment. It slowly crumbles, flaking away bit by bit from pure exhaustion. And what gets exposed is not an invincible mastermind,